Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the CA APM Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you. I would now like to turn the call over to Keith Palmer, Community Board Member. You may begin.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for dialing into today's CA APM Global User Community Webcast. My name is Keith Palmer, the Vice President of the APM Global User Community. I'm accompanied by our President, Manish Parikh, and our CA Community Manager, Mary Greening. First, just a couple of quick announcements. We have started our Community Webcast Raffle. One lucky, randomly selected community member will be chosen to receive a $100 Amazon gift card. The winner will receive an email from caapmcommunity@gmail.com. Keep your eyes open for it and make sure to check your spam folder as well. This webcast is being recorded and will be posted on the community archives. If you have any questions during the presentation, please ask in the QA panel in the WebEx session, not in the chat window. Today's presentation will take about 45 minutes. We certainly appreciate all of your activity on the message boards. Thank you all for your participation. Today, our presenters are Marc Chene and Tim Van Ash. They will be presenting an APM product update. Again, if you have any questions, ask in the QA panel on the WebEx, and we'll get started. Tim, it's all yours.
Thanks, Keith. Good morning, everyone. So hopefully you can see the screen. So what we'll be walking you through today, I'm going to give you an update on the APM vision and strategy and where we see the market going, and how we're going to respond to that, and in fact what we're doing already. And then Mark's going to take you through the upcoming APM 9.6 release, walk you through in detail the marquee features, and then we'll conclude with the APM roadmap. If you've got any questions, we'd ask that you hold them to the end, just to make sure that we get through all the content first. But feel free to either submit them via chat or at the end through the operator. So what do we see has been going on in the APM market? We believe that the market is in the second phase of its evolution, and we're about to enter the third phase. So the first phase was really the advent of Java and .NET and some of the application stacks and application servers that took it through to from the late 90s really through to the middle of the last decade. The second phase extended the concept of instrumenting applications, and I should say the first phase, CA both led and dominated through its acquisition of Wiley Technologies. Wiley invented the concept of bytecode instrumentation and really dominated that market. The second phase really took us to more of a transactional view. So we were starting to see how the different systems interoperated amongst one another, and that's really the phase that we're in right now. The interesting aspect of this is right now there's clearly no winners in that market. If you look at any set of market share that's out there, the market share is roughly 10 to 12%. There are no clear winners of the second phase of the market, and that's something that we intend to address. But more importantly, we think with the advent of BYOD and just tremendous growth in the mobility space, we think it's really going to expand into the third phase, really starting sometime next year. And that's all about users, but it's understanding not just the end user response time, which has been around now for 15 years or so, but a market that has largely been underserved. We've had synthetic monitoring, We've had various ways of doing real user monitoring over that time, but none of them have been a slam dunk. We believe that understanding the user and the way in which they both use their applications and the experience they have with the applications will really dominate the third wave of APM. And that market is already emerging, and you'll see and hear a lot more about what CA is doing to address that market over the next 6 months or so. So I want to pivot for a moment and just talk about APM strategy, and specifically CA's APM strategy. We've been a leader in this market. We helped create this market, but and we've dealt with some of the most complex environments out there. But what we're finding as we talk to you, our customers, is a couple of things. First, they do more with less. You know, the sheer scale up of environments means that your experts are now having to deal with sheer volumes of applications and application servers that are unprecedented at any time in the past. Secondly, you need to empower the people sitting in the network operations center, the people, you know, tier 1, tier 2 support to actually add more value in the process. So coming through, that's really dominating the way that we think about the experience that we're providing. So not just best-of-breed technology, but how can you get the best experience and the highest return for your people capital that you've got deployed. So I'll talk about the 3 steps that we've taken in a moment. But the first key plank to our strategy is we've worked very hard over the last 7-8 months to really work on simplifying APM and reducing TCO, and I'll come back and talk about that. But you'll see us taking a leadership role in the industry in terms of TCO over the next 12 to 18 months. User experience. APM developed as a very technical domain. And what we've seen is the market is clearly needs easier and simpler tools to empower those folks in the NOC, tier 1, tier 2, but more importantly, what customers really need is a more effective way to collaborate around application problems. And secondly, the world, you know, I saw some numbers that suggested, you know, 90% of mission-critical transactions flowed through Java stacks today. A couple of weeks back, but Java is not the only thing in our world. We've had, you know, we've supported Java and .NET for a long time, as well as many of the other parts of the middleware stack. But today, with the rate of change, you know, languages like PHP, new technology stacks like Node.js are emerging and really dominating certain classes of applications. And these applications all work together, so they need to be able to be managed cohesively as an entire system. So you'll see a lot more from CA on that front. So simplifying APM and reducing our overall TCO. So as many of you know, APM was separated into its own business unit in September of last year. And one of the first things our new general manager, James Harvey, did was really form a team of our experts in the field from our consulting, pre-sales, support, and our engineering SWAT team to look at how could we reduce the TCO. And he set a very ambitious goal. And that was, how can I reduce the install time by up to 90%? And we're very excited by the research and the work that team did. They looked at customer implementations worldwide, and they studied, where were the bottlenecks, what was causing us to experience, install issues. And what they found was that the average install took 4 hours, an upgrade could take 10.5 hours, configuring could take 5.5, and diagnosis of complex problems could be over 11.5 hours. And what we found when we studied it was that there are things that we can do to dramatically impact that. Our expectation is that we'll get installation down under an hour within the next 12 months. You'll see a lot more from us in terms of improving the way that we upgrade and centrally manage the environment. And I'll come and talk about what we're doing to dramatically transform the user experience. And we'll do a separate session on the work that we're doing in that regard. So if we look at the install, the first thing you had to do was access the support site, search for software, download the packages, verify the prerequisites, install the software, modify any application scripts, set up the profiles, restart the application, and verify the reporting. As we just discussed, that could be several hours. As a result of the research of that team, we're now targeting 30 minutes, and you'll see that reflected in the roadmap when Mark gets to it. But we believe that it will be entirely possible to get installation down to definitely under an hour, and likely well under 30 minutes over the next 12 months. So we've gone after what we believe are the hard problems preventing you from getting value from APM today. And you'll see that across the same approach being applied to upgrade, configuration, and triage as well. So some of you have heard about the core research we've been doing now for 4 months or so on really understanding what are the problems that you all face in your day jobs. We've now interviewed, I think it's in excess of 20 customers, well over 70 interviews across many different job roles. And what it was all there, it's part of what we call the Cooper project. And Cooper Interactive is the leader in interaction design or computer-human interface design for software. Alan Cooper, who is the founder of Cooper Interactive, really pioneered many of the CHI concepts in the early 90s. They're seen as a leader in this space. And we've been working with them not only to really understand the problems as they are today, but also to really transform the way in which we think about user design and the user experience. And I'll give you a bit of an example on what I mean by that. So today, typically, when we've had conversations with customers, it's been around what our software does, areas of improvement. What we've done with Cooper is actually go out and study what you do in your job. How many post-it notes do you have on your screen? How many phone calls are you receiving? How many emails do you get? What do you do with those emails? Are those emails sending a bunch of screenshots that you're getting from your colleagues? What is it that you do? What are the problems that you face? And using that to both understand the type of organization, the level of maturity, and create a solid set of user personas and what they really do every day, and what are their challenges. So this is really lifting it above, do we have the best technical tools, to what are the problems that you solve, and what are the barriers to solving those effectively and efficiently. And this really goes to that other period of time that we talked about from a diagnosis. So we believe that there is a huge opportunity to differentiate on user experience, but more importantly, make APM more pervasive in the organization by enabling a larger part of the organization to gain value and use it in their day jobs. So as I said, the first thing comes from knowing the user. We built a new design group within APM, and Kevin Mackey, I don't know if you made the call this morning or not, but Kevin Mackey is our Vice President of User Design, and I've asked Kevin at a later stage to do a session to this community to walk you through all the things that we've learned from the research so far, as well as start to walk you through what we think the next generation of APM UI looks like, and to really get your involvement in that process, get your feedback, and make this very much a collaborative process as we go forward. And the next thing is we see as a crucial part of that third generation, we will be competing on superior design, not just simply superior capability to monitor applications in your environment, but actually gain value from that monitoring. So you'll see a significant shift in the way that we've gone about this. And the third aspect to this is really accelerating our modern standards. So many of you participated in community broadcasts over the last 6 weeks or so, where we walk through the new PHP agent that will come out towards the end of this year. But we recognize that that's not enough. We've had Hadoop field pack for some time, but we're also looking to support other languages like Python, Node.js, and Ruby, and we're really looking for your feedback as to which are the languages that you need us to support in what order. And with that, I will hand it to Marc Chene to do the 9.6 update and walk us through the roadmap.
All right, thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. So welcome to the APM 9.6 roadmap overview. And let's kick it off with the 9.6 release scheduled to come out in June timeframe. So our APM 9.6 release, as you'll see, is in development complete at the stage right now. We're involving we've engaged over 20 or so customers to participate in a real-world testing program. That's our enhanced beta program to further validate the 9.6 release in customer environments, in your customer environments, in your environments, to make sure that, as you know, quality is critical in terms of our releases, and we want to make sure that this release doesn't cause any issues within your release, and make sure that people can put the actual environment under load and be able to sustain the durability, maintainability, supportability that you require and that you expect out of our APM product. Some of the new platform support that we've added in 9.6 are JBoss EAP, Message Broker 9, Web Methods Broker 9, IBM Integration Bus, and SharePoint 2013. We've also added support for 2048-bit SSL, and we've also fixed a number of issues that I would recommend that you reference our release notes for more details around potential issues that may have impacted your technology tiers that you currently monitor with APM. You'll also note that we have also released a lot of these similar platform support and issues as a service pack to our 953 release in April, currently GA, so feel free to go to our CA support download site to download the latest release. Some of the marquee features in APM 9.6 are deep trace transaction visibility. This is our ability to eliminate some of the manual configuration required to get deep visibility in some of the homegrown code that you've built in-house or third-party libraries. We've also added the ability to deploy TIM as a software as truly just a software. We no longer ship the Red Hat Linux version, so ultimately making it more flexible for our customers to adopt their own certified version of Red Hat Linux and CentOS. We've added application triage map improvements to really simplify the usability of the map and the ability to get the topology view of user-defined socket groups. So when you have a lot of socket groups going to back-end system, whether it's mainframe, whether it's SAP ABAP, MS Exchange, we now provide the ability to provide these user-defined names and group these by socket, port, and IP range. We've also added Java 7 support for the Enterprise Manager, the agent, supporting native agents, including several of the Power Packs that we support, and as well as the workstation. We've also added some improvements to the cross-enterprise APM. Some of these improvements include the ability to view end-to-end transactions from your application servers to CICS transactions all the way down to the DB calls being made from these CICS transactions, as well as the ability to be able to correlate and be able to view the MQ alerts from SysView in APM to be able to understand the quality and risk that may be impacting your critical applications and business services. You'll also note that this release includes a new feature that will be available with SysView 14 that's being scheduled for the end of June, which is the ability to view not only against the application owner, the TOR, but also get visibility into the application owner regions on your mainframe systems. So for deep trace transaction visibility, this is an example of how these deep trace components will now show up in a transaction trace. You'll now see these new components that don't require any configuration based on a patented algorithm that we've submitted. We're automatically able to calculate a score to be able to understand the complexity rating based on the number of calls being made from the method, and elements like errors or number of recursion for loops inside that method that ranks the complexity. And based on the instrumentation level, ranging from low to high, you're able to get a lot more deeper visibility within those application tiers being monitored by our agent. This is another example of a different trace perspective to be able to see where these deep trace components are and how they're impacting the quality and risk of critical application business transactions that your end users are actually using from web or from mobile devices. From a socket grouping perspective, so this is an example of being able to, again, as a production support analyst, be able to go ahead and create these socket groups to be able to aggregate a list of sockets that communicate to a back end and be able to name it, such as Exchange ABAP, and be able to have all of the socket groups that are communicating from these different technology tiers, your web tiers, your services tiers, to this common back end, so that you can monitor the quality and risk of this user-defined group and impact to your technology tiers and ultimately to your end user experience. So you can do this all by defining different rules to be able to group these by socket port or by IP range. So this is another perspective again of that same grouping. So this provides you the normalization, the average of all of the current groups blame point metrics of these KPIs, key performance indicators, including response time, concurrency errors, responses per interval, and stalls, which represents the slowdown and depletion of resources. And you can see this all in one view and be able to quickly, from a production support analyst, be able to quickly isolate which sockets from which technology tier is actually slowing down and impacting end user quality. From a cross-enterprise APM, so the ability to view a transaction from your application servers running either on distributed or mainframe, to be able to see these transactions going into KIX transactions. Here you see an example of a transaction call going all the way to a DB2 query, so that you better understand if DB2 is actually a source of problem or a specific query is a source of problem, getting all the details of that query being made from an end user transaction, such as login or a search query, and be able to understand that from the web transaction that goes through your application servers, distributed tiers, or mainframe, all the way down to your KIX transactions running on the mainframe, and then those KIX transactions being executed and making calls to your DB2 system. The other element available in 9.6 is our ability to allow you to consume all of the MQ alerts from your SysView system to better understand the impact of the MQ infrastructure on your applications and services, so that you can easily correlate potential slowdowns in MQ that are impacting your end user experience, your applications and services that you are currently monitoring. All right, so as I mentioned, our APM 9.6 release is development complete. We again, want to make sure that we get through numerous tests in customer environments prior to going GA. Our current targeted dates, our forecasted date is towards June timeframe, so coming up soon. We're just finalizing our final rounds of real-world test, and looking forward to sharing that release with you in the upcoming month. So I'll walk you through some of the roadmap items for 9.6. So as Tim mentioned, right, user experience is very important to us. Better understanding some of these research results allowed us to better focus on some of the key areas that we wanted to target in 9.7, but most importantly, laying the right foundation to address some of these key concerns in the 9.8 timeframe and future release timeframes. So I'll start with the on-premise capability. We've already talked about 9.6. I'll go into our 9.7 target items. Some of the key elements that we want to do is continue to enhance our smart instrumentation capability. Now that we are collecting these deep transaction components, we also want to be able to make sure that any stalled components, that we collect that information for the specific deep trace components as well, so that we understand exactly what is causing potential depletion or slowdowns that could be impacting end user experience from these deep trace components without having the need to manually configure any pro builder directives or instrumentation level from the agent perspective. An important thing that we also came out from the research is that we noticed that a lot of users are still getting alerts. Any level 1 support analyst, production support analyst on call tend to use email as a primary source of information to be able to alert them on problems and be able to further diagnose issues in the environment. So one of the things that we've introduced in 9.7 that we're currently in development is the email alert with problem context. So what we want to be able to do is provide a lot more contextual data in an email, so that you understand which APM infrastructure is actually triggering the problem, the ability to know exactly what is the alert status, be able to understand what is triggering the problem, be able to configure the subject body of the email, making sure that you can put all that context in the email, and most importantly, So that first of all, the production support analyst that's on call can make a logical decision whether or not it's important enough to address the problem now, or it can wait until he gets into the office. But most importantly, in that email context, we want to also preserve the ability to link into context, into that user experience, into the alert, or into the metric that's actually triggering the problem. So as you know, in our 9.5 release, we introduced our web UI. All of the web UI includes a bookmarking capability, so the ability to link into context, time context, location context, anywhere into these metrics, into these alert definitions, into events such as transaction traces. So we want to make sure that we leverage that capability available in the web UI so that the alerts can eliminate the number of steps required for an application level 1 support analyst or a production support analyst to simply click into context to really eliminate the time, right, the total cost of ownership, and the ability to diagnose the problem by linking into the problem and understanding what else has changed in the environment. Some of the other WebView improvements that you'll see in 9.7 is the continued migration of some of the widgets that we support in the workstation today. Some of these include the shapes and connectors. We'll also see the XML type views, and also the ability to filter down agents by using the lens capability into some of these configured dashboards that a lot of our customers use in their environments. Also, one of the things that we're going to be enhancing our chart updates. We're going to be adding the ability to do min-max, be able to really help you isolate outliers within metrics that you're analyzing, and the ability to then export that data simply by clicking a button on a chart to simply share that information with others within your organization. From an end-user experience perspective, we're putting a lot of effort to optimize our transaction impact monitor, which is our agent that collects the network traffic, and ultimately we really try to improve the throughput and the ability to process a lot more transactions and aggregate this information, make that available in context to our your application, business transaction, business services that are being monitored. So from a stretch item, some of the things that we're looking at is for smart instrumentation, the ability to do auto-triggered deep traces. So this is ability to automatically collect traces that have these problems instead of actually looking for the follow-up sessions that actually have traces that have problems. So we want to be able to make sure that if an error happens in a deep trace component or anywhere in a deep trace, that we make sure to collect that one transaction trace so that it makes it easier for a production support analyst to be able to understand if this is an error that's happening in the context of a trace on only one of the application servers that are supporting this business transaction or business service, or across multiple business applications or application servers that are supporting this, the infrastructure for your business service. Metric time range comparison, again, is a result of our research. Preliminary results showed us that as an ability for performance test engineers and even production support analysts, they want to be able to easily characterize what changed in the environment. So we want to make it much easier for people to simply, from a chart, from a metric being analyzed, the ability to overlay the same metric from that agent, from that application server being monitored, or another application server in that same cluster, to be able to overlay a metric and be able to understand how has this changed in time, to understand against either an existing performance load, so really quickly understand, okay, understand changes and be able to make corrective actions as necessary. We're also introducing end-to-end mobile transaction monitoring. So this is our ability to understanding and linking back into our mobile application management solution that we will be introducing in the upcoming year, this year in 2014. And this is our ability to, from APM, understand that you're actually, our end users using mobile devices are experiencing abnormal behavior, crashes on their mobile devices, and be able to link that experience back to APM and be able to link into context into the mobile solution to be able to understand where are these end users being impacted, which end users are being impacted, which mobile devices are being impacted. and the ability to really understand how many times is this impacting your user as you're rolling out new applications, new services, new infrastructure to support this mobile transactions for your organization. As you may have seen in some of our community webcasts in the last month, we've introduced our new PHP agent. The PHP agent is really, as part of what Tim was mentioning, when we look at reducing total cost of ownership, one of the things that we needed to look at is how to have more of a common set of technology to be able to support these newer platforms instead of having to rebuild agents all the time. So this was one of the examples of how we re-architected the agent to have a common collector type infrastructure to be able to improve durability and invasiveness of how we collect and be able to manage remotely these types of agents. And this part of these, what we're delivering is this part of this re-architecture. First prototype was our PHP agent that we demonstrated on our community. Certainly recommend going to look at the demos. And the goal there is to continue to deliver some of that value in the 9/7 timeframe and show you what we're able to do to really show you how we can reduce that total cost of ownership in having to manage PHP as a technology, but other technologies as well, and helping us from an organization really improve our development velocity by having a common set of technology, agent technology, collector technology that could be reused across multiple technologies that we're monitoring. From an end-user experience monitoring, we're also improving our real-time transaction metrics. You'll see some of these changes happening in 9/7 and then in the course of 9/8 as well. For our 9/8 timeframe, some of the core themes that we'll be looking at is our APM SaaS offering. As Tim mentioned, again, our user experience, very empirical for us to be successful and differentiate ourselves in the market. The ability to reduce the total cost of ownership, so continuing to build on this architecture for the agents and be able to centrally manage a common set of agent technology and agentry that allows us to really reduce the total cost of ownership. And then ultimately expanding a coverage across modern standard now that we've increased the development velocity from managing this common collection agent and be able to simply build approaches for new technologies. Certainly something that we want to deliver in the upcoming releases. One of the things that I want to re-emphasize is our customer validation program communities. Right, certainly has provided a lot of value for us. We do read the ideas that are being posted, the comments. Certainly serves us as good, very very valuable justification for us to better prioritize and make sure that we are addressing your requests and your demands. So certainly continue to post and be active on our community. We thank you for being part of that, and certainly encourage those that are not participating to be to go and take a look at our communities for APM. Some of the also the elements that I want to be able to mention. This is all self-serve. You can register yourself and participate. You can also register for our customer validation program and be part of some of these real-world tests, these enhanced beta programs that we're currently running. We also have our end of sprint reviews that we will be holding soon for our 9/7 release, so that you can provide us early feedback, so that if there's anything that we need to add or change in the technology that we're implementing for 9/7 and in the future releases as well, you can provide that feedback and see what we're actually building in the upcoming release. So on that note, that completes the APM product roadmap. Thank you for attending, and I'd like to open it up for questions.
Victoria? At this time, if you would like to ask an audio question, press *1.
So I see a couple of questions in the Q&A panel. I can start answering those, Mary, or would you rather just answer directly in the panel?
You can answer them out loud.
All right, perfect. So so Tim is asking about socket grouping and where they're actually being located. So yeah, so they are in the management module. It's just another element. The same way that you create an alert or any actions, you'll be able to create a new socket group and define the rules that define that group So that is all managed in the management module section of our product. I'm just going through. Okay, a question from Tim around the TIM as software. So does it mean that you don't need to install a network appliance? So the TIM, so there's different ways to get the end user experience. One is through our ability to analyze network traffic. So the TIM as a software is strictly software. You still need to look at the network payload, right? The HTTP traffic, HTTP, HTTPS traffic. So you still need to get a feed from a span port or a port mirroring, right, in order to be able to analyze that traffic with the TIM. Now, if you don't have the ability to do that from the network, you can also use our browser response time monitoring, which is the ability to do dynamic JavaScript injection. So that's supported in our 9.5 release. Certainly would recommend you looking at that if you can't have the ability to span the network to get the network visibility as well. So be able to understand how network latency or potentially other networking data that's available from measuring the network payload can be available. Web methods. Okay, there's a question about this. Okay, Steve, I think somebody's answering Steve's question. I'll just give it a minute here.
Yeah, Mark, it's Tim. So, given that you're up to that one, the web method support or web methods 9.6 support will come post 9.6. How we handle all the certification of the new platforms, we actually go through a monthly process where we're continually testing new versions of the platform and then or new versions of third-party products and then certifying them. We did the same with web methods 9.5 on top of 9.5. I think it was 9.5.2, if I remember correctly, Mark. But it will come likely as either 9.1.6 or a 9.6.2, depending on the effort involved later in the year.
Great, thanks, Tim. Nick, so yeah, Nick, your questions around the workstation creation and its antiquity and some of the dashboarding capability. Yeah, so we completely understand that as part of this research and this work that we're doing with Cooper. These things are being revisited, and this whole user experience workflow and ability to manage and providing much more visually enhancing and user-rich dashboards is something that we are addressing. Something that you're likely not going to be seeing some of these changes in 9.7, some preliminary changes maybe, but certainly something that you'll see in the follow-up releases. Keyshore, remote agent configuration is absolutely being considered. We're in the process of, as I mentioned, through what we're doing with our PHP agent through a common agent architecture, trying to look how we can simplify remote agent configuration and make sure that it satisfies our business need or our customer needs, which is really about allowing users to, once they've defined a configuration template, to be able to push that configuration template to more than one agent, right? A group of agents for a specific ecosystem or environment, and be able to do that at scheduled times and everything else. So that is something we are looking at, just trying to determine when that would best be delivered based on some of this agentry rework that we're doing. Ed, TLS support for 1.2 and higher. I can't answer that at this point. I thought we were looking at that for 9.7. I'd have to get back to you, so we're going to respond to that after the call. Ashish, so thanks for that. I think it's great. They provided some new technologies that he would like us to monitor, such as RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ, SQL Fire, cache. So that these are all great technologies. So we'll make sure that that's being considered. Certainly would recommend to help us prioritize some of these things, include some of these ideas and idea vision in terms of technologies, platforms that you'd like us for us to support, and ultimately the more votes that we can get for some of these ideas, the more justification it adds for us to add that support for these platforms and technologies. Tim asking about executive insight. So good question. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one in terms of near-term enhancements. William. So William, Tim, do you want to give a quick description on that? I think you've done a good job in the past describing that. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at William's question. If not, ultimately, right? I mean, so we do monitor all transactions all the time, right? I mean, that's an important aspect of it. What we certainly, have done and consciously done is, collecting all transactions, good and bad, makes it very challenging, in our opinion, for customers to cipher through all these different transactions. And the value there is something that we're still questioning and understanding, trying to get why are you trying to solve this problem, or what transactions that you're trying to solve, or what problems that you're trying to solve. So really understanding the pain points and needs for our customers is critical, right? And we are convinced that having all transactions, being able to collect a visualization of all transactions is not necessarily what you, as an end user, based on some of the research we've done, is not necessarily what you want, right? The end users are asking for, tell me when there's a problem, tell me when something has changed, tell me what the issues are, and so that I can quickly triage and diagnose a problem. And I think ultimately, right, we want the system to be much more intelligent, to give you that information and make sure that you trust the system and provide you that right evidence to be able to allow you to do a much more effective job at triaging and diagnosing problems. So certainly understand where some of these requests are coming from. Certainly want to make a better job at how we're collecting and how we're exposing these problems and these changes in the environment for our application support, production support analysts, and level 1 support analysts to be much more effective at diagnosing problems, and that's something that we are addressing. Will that necessarily consist of collecting or making every transaction available, even the really good ones? That's still to be decided. So Dell, good question around the browser response time monitoring and support for .NET. I don't have an exact time frame for you. Certainly we'll have to look that up and get back to you on that. Certainly would recommend as well, I'm not sure if it's on the Idea Vision site, but if it's not there, would recommend putting it on there and love to have our community vote on the importance of having that prioritized accordingly. Tim, did you have?
I had a comment to add to that. So in general, what we're working on is an architecture that will make BRTM language independent. One of the options that we've got on the table is actually creating a web server plugin that inserts it rather than doing it at the application server. So we're very interested to get feedback from the community on whether that's a viable approach for them, and because part of what we've been hearing from the customers we've been interviewing on this front is that they don't control the web server tier, and that may not be the best approach for them. So we'd love to get any feedback from this session on any preferences in terms of how to handle that. But our intent is to make it language independent. We've got a number of ways of approaching it, and it is very much top of mind for us right now, where you'll see a number of BRTM improvements over the next couple of months, starting with some improvements we'll introduce before 9.7 that will do client-side error capture, and that'll come in the 961 service pack and also the 956 service pack in sort of at the end of summertime. So you'll see a number of improvements coming forward on that one.
Victoria, could you prompt the community for questions one more time?
Certainly. At this time, if you would like to ask an audio question, press *1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's *1 to ask a question. And there are currently no phone questions at this time.
So, Mark, did you address the other question from Dell on RESTful web services?
No, not right now. I was answering a question from Tim at this point, just around the clarification around 953. And I can't even post. Okay.
So on the RESTful web services, we support a number of different RESTful web service stacks already, particularly with the different field packs and things that are out there. One of the things about RESTful web services in general is it's very stack dependent. So we've got to add support for the specific stack for RESTful web services. So it's not just a case of adding generic web service support. So if there's a specific web service stack, then as Mark said, please get it on the IDEA site, but also feel free to reach out to us directly because there's a number of products that we're already working with. And another question from Ashish on updates to ABA. So we did an update to ABA with the 952 service pack release. So now it's not a separate add-on. It's delivered as part of the core product. We continued that with 9.6. One of the things that we've heard from you is that you need help with ensuring you're getting the right set of metrics to optimize the outcome of the analytics, because there's a lot of overhead and a lot of metrics that don't make sense. So what we've got happening right now is actually a best practice project that we'll be looking to incorporate and support formally in 9.7, but those best practices will be out well before then. We're also extending ABA to support mainframe data as part of our cross-enterprise solution, and you'll see intelligent alerts and a number of other things that will come likely post 9.7 at this point. A question from Tim on where is the stand on APM Studio? I'm not sure I quite understand the question on that one, but it looks like Mark is addressing it anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that was somebody else that's answering there. So yeah, the APM Studio is the currently field-supported tool that's a plug-in to Eclipse to be able to help configure the agents remotely and analyze some of the agent data. That continues to be a field-developed solution. No current plans to incorporate it as is in a product, but certainly things in order to reduce total cost of ownership are being addressed directly in the product. So certainly continue to recommend using the field version of it. And we are addressing some of the primary use cases that our end users have exposed during some of these interviews, and looking at how we're going to deliver this in the product.
And as Mary notes, there'll be a webcast on that in the fall time frame in terms of APM Studio. So it'll be a great session to attend. So if you're interested in additional training with APM Studio, I would encourage you to reach out to your account teams, and we'll get them involved with the right services people to get you that support. Okay, well, I think we're pretty much at the top of the hour. So Mary, back to you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Tim, for presenting today. We have a poll that just went up to rate the value of today's topic. Be sure and go out and visit the communities and vote on any enhancements or submit any enhancements that may have come up during today's call. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you for your participation in today's call. This concludes the conference. You may now disconnect.